Hello everyone, my name is Tofu, and welcome to my guide to farming the final boss level of Pokemon Quest. In this guide, I will be detailing the basics of team building, specifically for auto-farming the endgame boss of Happenstance Island. Everything I cover here comes from posts on the Pokemon Quest subreddit and my own testing and experience. All resources will be linked in the description below. First, I recommend that you have a team of Pokemon that have at least 8 stone slots unlocked, which happens around level 80 to 90, varying by Pokemon. Having fully evolved Pokemon doesn't seem to matter as much in terms of raw stats. Having good bingo bonuses and proper stone allotment is much more important. In general, bingo bonuses should increase critical rate and/or critical damage, decrease the wait time for your standard attacks, or decrease the wait time of your chosen move. Each Pokemon on your team should only have one move, not only to increase the number of move stones available, but also because having a second move can make your clears a lot less consistent. There are 3 primary types of roles on a team: buffers, DPS, and disruptors. Buffers have a move that increases a Pokemon's stats, such as Bulk Up, Light Screen, or Iron Defense. The best buff moves currently are Bulk Up and Work Up. These are the best moves because they give both an attack and defense buff, so you're dealing more damage and taking less. All buff moves seem to buff the stat by the same amount, so a move like Bulk Up, which buffs 2 stats, will buff defense by the same amount as Iron Defense, which only buffs 1 stat. Buffers are so powerful because of the Share Stone, which adds 25% of the buff effect to the Pokemon's teammates per stone. So with 3 stones, your entire team receives 75% of those attack and defense buffs. This is vital for farming the Happenstance Island boss level, because there are a lot of moves that can kill your team in one shot without those extra stats. Buffers prefer to have high HP, so that they can survive hits better. They tend to want no less than 5 sturdy stone slots. The stones you want to give them should give more natural HP healing, because their low attack and lack of offensive moves means they won't benefit as much from hit healing, and time to recover, so if your buffer ever dies, it revives fairly quickly. 3 share stones is ideal. I was mostly unable to auto-battle the boss until I finally found my 3rd share stone. However, using 2 stones is passable and can work with the proper team composition and a little luck. Next, we have DPS. These Pokemon have moves that hit multiple times, such as Psychic, Hydro Pump, and Draco Meteor, or strong moves that have good animations or hitboxes, such as Mega Horn, Close Combat, Fury Swipes, or Mega Punch. DPS Pokemon want more attack to dish out as much damage as possible, so they want 6 or 7 Power Stones. 6 or 7 leaves a little bit of bulk so that they can have some degree of survivability, which they can heal up after with hit healing. The stones you want to prioritize have hit healing, critical hit rate, and critical hit power in that order. DPS Pokemon generally want 1 Whack Whack stone and 2 Weightless stones. Finally, we have Disruptors. These Pokemon have moves like Flatter, Confuse Ray, or Supersonic, which confuse the enemy Pokemon and force them to attack themselves. Common disruptors are Nidoqueen, Magneton, and Golbat. Flatter, which can only be learned by the Nidoqueen line, is the most powerful, since it always confuses if it hits, and gives the enemy an attack buff that makes them hit themselves for half their health, if not more. However, the move only affects a small area in front of Nidoqueen, and since she's a ranged Pokemon, it can be difficult to make it to that close range, especially against the many Pokemon in the boss level that have moves that knock you back. Other confusion moves have better range, but have a higher chance to fail. Disruptors want to have more HP and more movement speed to get in range for their confusion moves. Disruptors usually want to use 3 Stay Strong stones to prolong the confusion for as long as possible, but those with Confuse Ray may use the Broad Burst stone to increase the area of effect. There are other status moves in the game, but most of them aren't consistent enough or powerful enough to warrant dedicating 1/3 of your team to them. Now that we have our basic roles, let's move on to team composition. A team should always have a buffer and a DPS. A buffer is necessary to provide buffs for your team, since it's practically impossible to efficiently and consistently clear the boss level without them, and a DPS Pokemon is necessary because otherwise you'll never finish the level within the 5-minute time limit. From there, you have some flexibility. You can add another DPS for faster clears, a secondary buffer if you want to use single buff moves like Iron Defense or Focus Energy, or want to use other status moves like Light Screen or Amnesia, a disruptor if you like forcing your enemies to hit themselves, or any other random melee Pokemon if your DPS seems to die too quickly and needs some extra survivability. Now, on to some example team builds. There is quite a bit of flexibility for your team based on what you have and what you want to use. Obviously, there are some very efficient options, but it is not necessary to use the same exact Pokemon for your clears. If you're having trouble clearing, this first team is a good option to start with, but as you befriend more Pokemon, earn better stones, and learn why this composition works, you can customize your team nearly to your heart's content. Team number 1, a standard team. Machamp, the buffer, who has bulk up with 3 share stones. Alakazam, the DPS, who has Psychic with 1 Whack Whack stone and 2 weightless stones. And Golem, the tank, who has Dig with 1 Whack Whack stone and 2 weightless stones. This team was recommended by GS Hyperios on Reddit because these 3 Pokemon lines are really easy to get from basic cooking recipes for fighting, psychic, and rock types respectively. I'll link to the post below so you can read more in depth on his analysis. But in general, this team relies on Alakazam firing off psychics, while Machamp and Golem provide buffs and tank damage for your frail DPS. Team number 2, a disruptor team. Poliwrath, the buffer, who has bulk up with 2 share stones and waterfall with none. Starmie, the DPS, who has Hydro Pump with 1 Whack Whack stone and 2 Broadburst stones. And Nidoqueen, the disruptor, who has Flatter with 3 Stay Strong stones. This team relies on Starmie throwing out Hydro Pumps, possibly the most OP move in the game, with a Whack Whack stone to attack twice and 2 Broadburst stones which make the Hydro Pump bursts longer. Poliwrath provides buffs and some extra damage. It's less consistent because it has Waterfall as a second move, which can mess up the buff cycle, but he's shiny and I love him. Nidoqueen uses Flatter to confuse enemies, dealing massive damage. To me, she's the weak link of the team since Flatter can be inconsistent, but others have had success with it, so your mileage may vary depending on your stone slots and bingo bonuses. Team number 3, double DPS. Machamp, the buffer, Alakazam, the DPS, and Scyther, a second DPS, who has U-turn with 3 weightless stones. Like the first team, Machamp provides buffs while Alakazam throws out psychics, but now instead of Golem, we have Scyther, with U-turn as a second DPS option. U-turn doesn't have the same multi-hit area of effect power that Psychic or Hydro Pump have, but it deals a lot of damage and moves Scyther out of harm's way, allowing him to weave in and out of danger while continuing to output damage. Team number 4, another double DPS. Golem, the buffer, who has Harden with 3 share stones. Hitmonchan, the DPS, who has close combat with 1 Whack Whack stone and 2 weightless stones. And Zapdos, a second DPS who has Thunder with 1 Scattershot stone and 2 weightless stones. Golem provides only defense buffs via Harden, so your overall DPS is lower and you'll have slower clears as a result, but having the defense buff is necessary for your DPS to survive, since you can't deal damage when you're fainted. Hitmonchan and Zapdos are on offense, dealing mostly single target damage. Close combat hits an area adjacent to Hitmonchan, so having move speed on him is preferred so he can stay in range of enemies. Zapdos has a Scattershot stone for a little extra multi-target damage. A Whack Whack stone is also an option, but Whack Whack stones tend to be better when a move is multi-hit or when it can hit multiple enemies. Thunder usually doesn't hit multiple targets, so I prefer the Scattershot stone. And finally, team number 5, Team Hydro Pump. Mewtwo as the buffer, who has bulk up with 3 share stones, and Starmie and Seadra as DPS, both with Hydro Pump. This team takes down the boss level insanely efficiently. Both of them have Hydro Pump with a Whack Whack stone and 2 Broadburst stones, which keeps them very healthy with 10% hit healing and moves them out of harm's way. The bursts have ridiculous range, and each hit from a water burst deals up to 20,000 damage on hit, without crits, which is insane if all 4 hits connect. Unfortunately, the bursts are easily blocked by walls and the stage edge, which means you lose a lot of DPS when you're clumped up around the middle of the stage, where all the walls are, or the very edge of the stage, where you often fight the final boss. This kind of setup is probably the strongest team composition in the game right now, so pray for luck with those Hydro Pump rolls. And so ends my guide on farming the boss of Happenstance Island in Pokemon Quest. Obviously this guide is incomplete, there are many more Pokemon that are definitely viable, and many more that are possibly viable, but hopefully this video gives you an idea of how to craft your own team for farming the final boss level. Please leave a like if you found this guide helpful, comment down below with your favorite Pokemon and builds, and let me know if you want more analyses and guides like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, my name is Tofu, and I will see you in the next video.